used to wear a turban, but now we're in the urban. No more wearing beanies or dressed like a genie.
Hello, welcome back to Bad 90s Music. I am the Jaquio, and I went all the way back in time to the 90s, 20 plus years ago, to bring you this music, and I hope you appreciate it. This is week 2 of Disney Month 2018 in March, and the movie for this week is called Aladdin. This is well into Disney's Renaissance era. After Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, they're like, well, what are we gonna do next? I know, how about basically we'll do a remake of The Thief of Baghdad and just put our little Disney Broadway musical style magic touch on it and just more profit for us. See, this is how much swagger Disney had back then. They could just basically dust off any old story and be like, okay, we're going to apply our same formula to it, our same team, production staff, animators, music departments, everybody, and it's gonna be another big hit. And it was, I think, the biggest movie of this year. This came out in 1992. This is just 1 year after Beauty and the Beast. People have not forgotten Beauty and the Beast by any stretch of the imagination, and this movie is already coming out. I think a lot of people from my generation can probably say the same thing as me, that this movie is basically their introduction, as far as pop culture goes, to anything basically depicting or taking place in Middle Eastern culture. And that was a really big deal. I mean, I was a kid at the time, so I didn't think along those lines. I just thought, oh yeah, it takes place in a different country or whatever. I didn't think about how significant that must have been. I mean, what was like the farthest reaches of the world that a previous Disney movie had taken place in prior to this? Most of them are set in pretty much a American or European Anglo type of time and place that are, you know, very familiar probably to people of Middle America. And, you know, a lot of them take place obviously in fantastical places or magical places, but yeah, an actual part of the world its audience probably didn't have very much familiarity with. That was a powerful thing. It's kind of sad too, because we haven't really made that much progress since then either. I mean, I can't think a bigger movie than this to take place in the type of setting that it took place in, with people of, you know, this sort of ethnic heritage. Besides this one, I don't know what else there is. Yeah, where's the Black Panther of the Middle Eastern part of the world? The whole movie starts with this song called Arabian Nights. This was also written like the last two Disney films. Most of these songs are written by Alan Menken doing the music and Howard Ashman writing the lyrics. Howard Ashman unfortunately passed away prior to the movie, prior to this one coming out. He did manage to finish a couple of these songs before he died, and this is one of them. It's called Arabian Nights. And this is how it starts. This is how the whole movie starts. Clearly trying to evoke a very exotic setting, very far off, almost mystical sounding time and place.
Where it's flat and immense and the heat is intense. It's barbaric.
So in case it wasn't obvious, that line was changed from the original version, and I do remember hearing the original version very clearly in my mind. I remember this, but the original version had that line when this movie was first released in theaters, where they cut off your ears if they don't like your face. And they changed it to whatever that is. I always thought that that was a really gruesome way to begin the children's movie. I can see why. I mean, that's not why they changed the line. They changed it because it was culturally offensive, of course. You know, it actually sets it up to be a much darker film than it ends up being.
Arabian Nights, like Arabian Day.
And by the way, there was a TV series version of Aladdin that was made after this movie on Disney Afternoon, and this was its theme song, so that's how memorable it was. So this performer is Bruce Adler. I'm gonna go on a limb and guess that he's not a person of Middle Eastern descent, so he's just kind of imitating that accent. This movie, to me, also marks a very significant turning point in the way that the Disney films are cast, for one reason, basically. So, just like the last two films, this voice cast isn't made up of a whole lot of recognizable faces, at least not people you'd recognize now. The main kid who does Aladdin was on Full House at the time. He had just been added to the cast as, I think, DJ's boyfriend. Yeah, Scott Weinger. Okay, so that's the voice of Aladdin, the voice of Princess Jasmine, Linda Larkin. Jonathan Freeman does Jafar. Oh, Gilbert Gottfried did Iago. I don't think he was as well known at the time, but he did end up becoming well known for this. And yeah, other than that, I mean, you know, there are some voice acting veterans on here, and wait, what about the genie? Who do we get for that? You know, as long as we're going all out here, Robin Williams. So Robin Williams has always been one of those mercurial talents to me. One of those guys that's just so bursting with life and energy, and so much outsized talent that it almost can't help but be wasted. In spite of the fact that everybody pretty much loved Robin Williams, I think, while he was alive, it almost seemed like he never really knew what to do. Even he didn't know what he was supposed to do with all all of his talent. This was an interesting point in Robin Williams' career. I think when he signed into this movie, he had kind of started to make this transition from doing more like serious prestige type of fare to basically becoming a children's entertainer. More accurately, just kind of transitioning into doing a lot more family-friendly material. Like, if you look at his credits prior to this, he's got Awakenings, Dead Poet Society, The Fisher King. So that's how he spends the late 80s in a lot of these really highbrow, like, prestige films. A lot of, you know, awards bait type of roles. He goes from that to basically Hook, and Toys, and Mrs. Doubtfire, and Jumanji, and Ferngully. So he actually did a voice in the same year for like a rival studio. I think it all starts with Hook, basically. That's kind of the turning point in his career where, you know, from there he kind of transitioned into doing a lot of sort of family-oriented roles. So that was how his career started going around the time they signed him to do Aladdin. Aladdin was definitely the biggest hit out of all of those movies. And he plays the voice of the genie, he does the voice of the peddler in the beginning of the movie, so the guy whose voice you heard singing is the speaking voice of that character. And he sings his own songs too. Robin Williams could actually sing. You know, he's just always on in this movie, you know, as the genie, and kind of does mark a difference in the way that these ancillary Disney characters are written and in the way that they're cast. From here on, they're a lot more likely to be cast with like really recognizable voice actors, or people who aren't even really strictly voice actors, but they're just people that everybody knows that are recognizable for other things. The comic relief sidekick, which is, you know, a mainstay, this is where it kind of becomes a referential, pop culture all over the place sort of role. This is where that starts, basically, and the humor in these films too also starts to turn to something more kind of hip and postmodern and referential. You know, by this point, The Simpsons had been on the air for a couple of years, and that was the same kind of humor that The Simpsons, I think, made really mainstream, taking homages and pastiche and turning that into their own brand of comedy. Very fitting, actually, because in this direct-to-video sequel of Aladdin called The Return of Jafar, the voice of the genie, Robin Williams exits the project, and they bring in Dan Castellaneta who does the voice of Homer in The Simpsons. So, and then after this, they start to cast these roles a little differently. The comic relief character that's comparable to the genie in Mulan is basically Mushu, the dragon. That's done by Eddie Murphy, who of course will go on to do Shrek, and which brings us back to All-Star again. I'm sorry, I still haven't recovered from that episode. We had Eddie Murphy in Mulan, we had Rosie O'Donnell in Tarzan, Danny DeVito in Hercules. You know, they kept following that pattern. They said it worked, and you know, that's basically what Disney was doing with Aladdin. The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast both worked, and if it's not broke, they're not going to fix it. So they're making the same type of movie, but this time in a totally radically different sort of setting, but with the same presentation and style.
Well, Alibaba had them 40 thieves, Scheherazade had 1,000 tales.
So this is Friend Like Me. This is the first song that Robin Williams sings. I had the sing-along of this on VHS as a kid. We watched it a lot. Whatever Robin Williams does, I assume they were like, okay, we have to animate that somehow. It definitely, I think, did not work the other way around. It's not like they had these concepts and ideas for the genie and then said, okay, Robin, do this. Okay, you do this. I'm sure they just put him in the voice studio and say, okay, Robin, do whatever you feel like today, and we'll figure out ways to animate it.
Let me take your order, jot it down. You ain't never had a friend like me.
Now, I don't think Robin Williams appeared in a lot of musicals, live action, I mean. I can't really think of any. As far as his singing voice, it's definitely more in the musical tradition of having a singing voice as opposed to what we would think of as, I guess, a traditionally good singer. It's a voice that's very big and boisterous and trying to portray a whole lot of style and character and story all at once. That's more of the emphasis than it is the technical vocal style that he uses.
Got a list that's 3 miles long, no doubt. Well, all you gotta do is rub like so.
Like, he can't really get through a line without doing some kind of weird inflection with his voice. This is one of the songs that Aladdin sings, so the singer on this song is Brad Kane, and he does a song called One Jump Ahead. This is Aladdin singing about being a thief, basically.
One jump ahead of the breadline, one swing ahead of the sword. I steal only what I can afford.
All of a sudden, Disney movies start getting, like, really aware of pop culture and of the time period they're in, and that's why they design Aladdin's pants to look just like MC Hammer. By this time, MC Hammer is getting pretty washed up anyway. But, you know, animation takes some time. I'll let him off the hook for that.
Let's not be too hasty.
So Aladdin's being chased by the palace guards. He's being all charming. So this one was not written by Howard Ashman. The lyrics were written by Tim Rice, who would come back for The Lion King and several other Disney films. So there's a big action sequence staged during the music. They're kind of getting two for the price of one at this part.
That's all, and that's no joke. These guys don't appreciate I'm broke.
You know, a lot of the musical numbers in the old Disney films, nothing's really happening in them as far as the plot or the action goes. They've really figured out how to streamline those things by the time they got to the Renaissance period.
Chris Ali, mighty
This is the song Prince Ali. This is the second song that Robin Williams sings. Yeah, he's very much camping it up on this song as well. And he's throwing all kinds of asides too. I don't know where these came from.
Don't they look lovely, June?
Purple peacocks, he's got 53.
Fabulous, Harry. I love the feathers.
Like, what does Macy's Day Parade anchors have to do with... I don't know. But that was just how Robin Williams' mind works, I guess. So this is a movie, to me, that almost seems like it was designed to be played over and over again on VHS, and that certainly happened in my house. I'm sure a lot of people grew up with this movie in the same way. Part of that was just throwing in a lot of detail, a lot of extra time and effort spent on putting little things in there, and I think the songwriting also took a lot more chances and a lot more risks than before, and Robin Williams, doing his thing, it's just like, just throw it at them as fast as possible, whatever, they'll get it, or, they'll keep watching it, and eventually they'll get it. Most of the songs in this movie are very fun. There's probably only one that you could actually describe as being serious.
I can show you the world.
This is A Whole New World. This one actually is the duet. Jasmine doesn't sing any other songs in the movie besides this.
Over, sideways, and under on a magic car.
Okay, I always wondered something about this song, which is, how much of the world does Aladdin really know about? I know that he's been in the streets, he's obviously seen more of the world than Jasmine has at this point. He's only had the magic carpet for like 1.5 days, maybe. And he's just acting like, oh yeah, I can show you the world, yeah. Like, I've seen it all, I've been on the magic carpet, I know what everything is. How does he know that the world out there is so amazing, and he's going to go next door and see the pyramids and the Sphinx and all that stuff? He seems pretty lucky. He stumbles on a magic carpet, and then he finds a genie in a lamp. This does seem to be a story about a guy just kind of lucking out over and over again. This is the requisite romantic ballad. If this was an older Disney movie, this would have been the only song in the entire thing, but since this is Renaissance era Disney, it's just another musical number.
I'll chase them anywhere. There's time to spare.
The musical numbers are all very beautiful, by the way. The animation in them is amazing. The magic carpet himself is... I remember hearing a lot of buzz at the time about how he was the first entirely computer-generated character in a movie. Jasmine's vocals that she sings here are by Lea Salonga. He's done a lot of voices and a lot of stuff. You might recognize her voice, actually.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
I don't know how creepy that line is supposed to sound. It did sound a little creepy to me when I was younger, but I mean, she's barely been outside the tower, man. Like, take it easy. A lot of songs were cut from this movie. I'm not going to go and play any of them. But that's pretty much it. There is a reprise of One Jump Ahead, I believe. There's a part where Aladdin sings a sad version of that song. I'm not going to play that. We will end on the same way we ended the last video with Beauty and the Beast. This is the pop ballad version of A Whole New World. This time is by Peebo Bryson and Regina Belle. So, at least they're getting a little more diverse with the people singing their songs. Maybe they weren't ready to actually get Middle Eastern singers to sing this stuff. It's 1992, people. Let's hear how this sounds.
Shining, shimmering, splendid.
Wow, Peebo Bryson looks like he was about 40 by the time he did this. I didn't know he was that old. Maybe people just looked older back then. I don't know. Okay, that's possibly enough. Regina Belle's voice is a little deeper, a little smokier than I thought it was going to be.
That now I'm in a whole new world.
Yeah, I grew up hearing that version a lot. I do kind of have a soft spot for it. I'm not sure why. It's just such a minimalist arrangement. I guess this is a style of 90s cheesy pop ballad that I don't mind. I don't know. It's got a little soul to it, I think.
There's time to spare.
It doesn't have the energy of the movie version, clearly. It's definitely lacking that. It doesn't feel like, oh, new world. It kind of feels like, yeah, whole new world. It's a little too chill, I guess. That was Aladdin, and this was Bad 90s Music. Next week, I'm going to be doing the next Disney movie of the Renaissance era. I might do 1 or 2 other videos this month to try to sum up the remainder of the decade, because there are too many Disney movies, and I'm not that familiar with most of them, so it might be a sort of a challenge for me to try to come up here and say things about them. But that was the soundtrack for Aladdin. Disney were still on a roll with this one, and they would stay that way, basically till the end of the decade. Oh man, they're remaking Aladdin, aren't they? It's such a bad idea. Why did nobody tell them that that was a bad idea? I guess they remade a couple of their other movies, and that worked out okay for them, so they're just going to do it with all of them. I think a Lion King remake might work. I don't know. I don't think you're going to improve on this one. We'll see. Good luck with that. A dazzling place I never knew. That's where this movie would take me every time I would watch it as a kid. I'd recommend going and watching this Or, you know, just listen to the songs sometime. It does kind of capture that same feeling. So until next time, I was the Jake Rio. This is Bad 90s Music.